let's talk about how these various people that you were seeing for regression, what you felt when they first started popping through saying, I'm not on Earth. I'm not from Earth. I'm somewhere else right now. And just kind of, we'll just collapse that briefly, what you went through when you started hearing this. Were you aware that people incarnated here from other places?
I was like vaguely aware. I know that in training, years before, Michael Newton would say, well, sometimes students, you'll have a client discovering a past life or an existence somewhere other than Earth. I only vaguely remember him saying that, but probably, Regina, about 6 to 8 years into my regression work with clients, and gradually, slowly but surely, I began doing almost exclusively regression work and no further conventional psychology. So 6 to 8 years into that process, I started realizing, and thinking back on my clients the week before and the week prior to that 50 to 60% of my clients were talking to me about their either their past lives, and this is a little tricky to explain, but either their past lives not on Earth or simply where they came from originally that was not on Earth. And just to clarify that so it makes sense to people, the term I use, interplanetary soul, simply means you're a soul that was created to not incarnate on Earth. But obviously, I learned about this from human clients. And so we have a number of humans on this planet that originally did not plan to come to Earth at all.
Yes. And you learned along the way, so we can set the framework. You yourself are an ancient Earth-based soul, right? Is that correct?
Yes. So, and I'm sure we'll get into that historically in terms of Earth. I'm a soul that once came from somewhere else, because all the souls that came to Earth and then continued to incarnate on Earth, which is for the most part my incarnations. I have a few non-Earth incarnations, but primarily here on Earth. We, those of us that came and stayed, we came from somewhere else originally.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere between 10 and 100,000 years ago. But I have been incarnating here almost exclusively for, say, 50 to 70,000 years.
Okay, so good. So you're familiar with the Earth people and the Earth energy, and
Yes.
And now consider yourself, for the sake of this conversation, an Earth-based soul.
Correct.
Okay, so now what you started seeing is there were people from other planets, other dimensions, other galaxies. There are beings here from all over, and this gets into, for me, a very interesting discussion. I might as well just bring it up now. I've been doing a little series of talks for my patrons having to do with what happened in the 1950s when these visitations were occurring from very elegant, very beautiful people from within our solar system, but elsewhere, who were coming to Earth to deliver certain messages about military-industrial complex, war, taking care of our planet a little better, eating better, giving us information about potential longevity of the human species if we could learn how to live more in nature, with nature, and healthfully, even up to levels of the top of governments. We ignored all that. So here we are. So now the beings are incarnating as us so we can get this change going. And so before we get to the subject of how all of this is arranged in hierarchies, I would like to ask you a little bit about what you're seeing that's really a little different and complicated for these beings coming for the first or second time from other places. Also about the subject of new beings, the new human, and autism.
Yes, big topic and important topic. So, one of the reasons, as you well know, Regina, this is such a huge subject that it's hard to even pigeonhole it and categorize it. But so interplanetary souls, of course, have been coming to Earth since the inception of Earth. But at this time, there are more interplanetary souls And I want to say going through the diaper stage, that's what I like to call it, coming in through the womb and the diaper stage. The reason I say that is because early on our planet, let's just say 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, souls could materialize and dematerialize on Earth, including interplanetary souls could do just that. Now that does not occur. That energetically that's not feasible, so it doesn't occur. So what I came to understand is that because, at the core of me, at least in this lifetime, I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist my whole basically working life. So spirit, my guides, when I say spirit, meaning my spiritual guides, which would include my higher self, spirit wanted me to start working more and more with, I call them IP souls to make it shorter. I was to begin working with IP souls because it's hard to be here. Well, it's hard to be here, period. But if you are a soul that has not been on Earth many times and you come from somewhere else in the universe, then one, you come from a healthy culture. So you come from a place that's not like Earth. You come from healthy cultures. We could spend hours talking about the uniqueness of a variety of healthy cultures. But coming to Earth, both functioning in, these human bodies is unfamiliar to IP souls. And therefore, IP souls start having or lifelong issues. They have allergies. They have autoimmune disorders. They have digestive issues. They have all kind of skin problems, you name it. And what we as humans call the autistic spectrum, which, I hope everybody knows that the autistic spectrum is from simple and minimal, you might say, simple and minimal symptoms to far blown, complicated symptoms. And so some of these people, and especially they're often young children that are being labeled as autistic, they simply haven't been in human bodies. So they don't communicate through language where they come from.
Right.
They don't eat the diet that humans eat or have to breathe the air or be exposed to toxins in the environment and that sort of thing. And so they struggle and they struggle emotionally as well. So I was, obviously my soul agreed to help these clients be here because we need their wisdom. We need their healthy perspective of life.
They're coming in for purpose. And Earth is, interestingly, it's sort of a melting pot for souls and always has been. So I think we need to get used to the notion that on a soul level, the people driving these vehicles have come from all over since the beginning of the formation of the human body. So I think we can't have kind of proprietary views about what it is to be human. So looking at that, we're seeing that unwise decisions have been made. Certainly, we're all aware of that. We're seeing how emotions can get out of control, ruin not only families, but entire nations, set them at war with each other for egoic purposes, greed, or selfishness. We're all witnessing that this very moment. So now first of all, is there a time frame you're seeing as to when the saturation of these souls started incarnating so that we can kind of look down the road in terms of when their effects might be more obvious?
Well, I would hazard to say that probably over the last 30 to 50 years, we've had more and more IPs coming to Earth. And yet at this very time, at this very moment, that is speeding up in terms of numbers. Now, we're talking, Regina, about numbers of IP souls on Earth, incarnate on Earth at this time. Still, the numbers are small. I mean, we're talking about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 2% of humans.
Right. It's not all of us. Yeah. These are people being drawn to you because they are having trouble. So this is in your practice. And that's good to clarify. You're seeing these people coming forward because they are trying to get adjusted and seeking help. But 2% is a lot. That's a lot of people.
Well, sure. And if you think about the Earth's population, yes, yes, of course. And what I find, I mean, as you're talking, I'm flashing on my memory of so many of these regressions where, let me see this is always hard to put into words. Sometimes I have clients who come and they already know they're not from Earth. So I certainly have some clients where that's the presenting issue, and they want to know more about themselves. But I have a lot of clients who come, and it's so funny. I hear my guides talking to me in my ear. It's like, say, add this, add that. So I'll try my best to, speak intelligently. And
you're talking and listening at the same time.
Exactly. So these clients, oftentimes I guide the regression. Now, let me just say for people, a soul regression is not where just so people understand, a spiritual regression, a soul regression is where I guide the client to gain their own information. They're speaking the information. I'm not serving as a channel to bring the information forward. And so I want to be sure people understand that. So I guide the client in a regression, and there are various indications of when a client that I'm working with is probably not a soul that primarily has incarnated on Earth. But I don't want, as you might say, I don't want to lead the witness. And so this is why I have a strong bias that regression therapists need to be well trained and well experienced so that you can fit together. Well, okay, I guided the client into the discovery of a past life, which is often the first step in a regression. But the client didn't go where they traveled to was not based on my words of going to a past life. This is an example. This doesn't always happen. Where they go oftentimes is the client goes to their home location in the universe, and they start describing their home location. And I fairly quickly realized they're not telling me about a past life anywhere.
Yeah.
They're telling me where they come from, because the client's guides want the client to be more accepting of themselves and embracing of why they're so unique. So that happens a fair amount.
Yes. And this is not something I would ordinarily talk about, but you and I have talked about it off camera, and you're aware of this, that you're an old Earth soul. I'm an old IP soul. Been here a really long time working, came for purpose. But one of the things that has been very confounding and interesting to me, besides all of those different symptoms, autoimmune allergies and all that, is the way of perceiving life here. And this, I know, because I read your book, that many people, and this is something that is interesting for men, because many of the viewers watching this are also, I think, among those who are IP souls. So to have certain abilities open, such as to be intuitive, even deeply intuitive, and at the same time, not shrewd, too incredulous or credulous. And this is a problem many of your clients had. This is a problem I've had my whole life, because, as my guides told me once upon a time, you have to become more shrewd. And it's like your being doesn't have that programmed in it. It doesn't know how, because it's not necessary where you came from. Now, so a lot of people in this situation can be very easily manipulated, hijacked, confused, because that's not even in the program that anyone would ever do such a thing, right?
I mean, that's totally right. I mean, there just are a myriad of ways that an IP soul struggles to operate in human culture. I mean, I would hazard to say, Regina, knowing you to even the minor extent that we know each other, that you are someone, I'm sure, that has worked hard to function and has learned how to function fairly well in human culture. And, that's not to say, and I know we'll get into this, that's not to say that an earth-based soul, what I call an earth-based soul, doesn't have struggles. They're just different and often not quite as complex.
Mm-hmm.
But there are, as I'm sure you know, Regina, there are IP souls in body who just don't do well at all, either physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, or all of the above.
Right. All of the above. So it is important because I think for many of the viewers watching this, they can see some of this or a great deal of this in themselves or in one or two or other family members, among friends, and just kind of have a little sensitivity that this person is going through more to make this work than might meet the eye. I think that is important. I've been here a long time, so I've learned how to socialize, but the private struggles of going through these kinds of things, the watching cruelty, even animals eat other animals on the planet is unbearable. I could never even watch a nature documentary. None of that makes any sense when you're not from here. This, predatory nature of Earth life on many levels. So that's a good sign right there, as people who can't handle predatory have been somewhere where no such thing exists. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.